I hear a lot about gluten
Yeah.
and bloating. So is there a connection? Like, what are the foods other than the
hmm
cruciferouses that you just explained? What are the foods that tend to cause bloating in people?
Gluten is definitely one of them. I mean, we all know there's so many people out there who feel bloated when after pizza and bread and pasta. And sometimes it's not necessarily a gluten. Like you can have a sourdough bread and be okay, but you have, pizza and you're not. So it's not necessarily sometimes the gluten itself, but the way it's prepared. There's also, I think 68% of the world population is lactose intolerant.
What does
And
that mean?
that means that when you eat dairy foods, you get bloated because your body can't break down the lactose sugar.
Oh,
I don't know. Are you one of those people? So well, everybody's
I have
different,
no
right?
idea.
So 68% of the world population, it can't digest a glass of milk or a big scoop of ice cream. They get bloated from it.
What are some other like symptoms
Yeah.
or things that you've seen in helping people to reset their gut, Dr. Shaw?
Well, I talk about this all the time, but your mood and cravings has a huge connection to your gut. So we talk about this gut brain connection. And so just to bring it back to hormones again, is like, when you're bloated or it's right before your period, you feel bloated or you're in menopause, you feel bloated, but you also feel really like sad and you feel
Hmm.
like, you're craving certain foods. And so what we're learning now is that this disordered gut bacteria that's happening, and for that, it's hormone based situational, but is disrupting things in our brain, and we have this gut brain connection. And so if you're feeling kind of down, fatigued, having cravings for strange things, that could be your gut bacteria talking to you and saying like, I don't feel good, and we're sending signals to your brain that we need to be healed. And Mel, nobody, even in modern medicine, this is not talked about. Very few people, when they go to the doctor and they say, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm feeling tired all the time, very few doctors are going to be like, let's look into your gut health. Like it's not even, it's like, go, here's some medicine, here's some antidepressants, or go talk to someone. They don't even think that it's related, but it's completely related. I mean, we have study after study after study saying like, okay, take some fiber, and all of a sudden people get improved cravings and mood, and eat some fermented food, and all of a sudden they feel better. So there's a huge connection with mood and feelings of anxiety.
So, Dr. Shaw, what foods make you bloated?
So we talked about cruciferous vegetables, including your broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage. Okay. We talked about artificial sweeteners like in your Diet Coke and in your gum, etc. Those are huge causes of bloating. We talked about sparkling drinks being a cause of bloating. We talked about dairy for so many people, gluten for so many people, high amounts of sugar for so many people. I actually, in my plan, like in my gut reset plan, I have every single person take out the foods that they think are triggering, like gluten, dairy, white sugar, and put themselves on a food elimination diet at least for a week, if not 4 weeks, to identify which foods are triggering your bloating. So for me, it was gluten and dairy and sugar. And for a lot of people, it is all three. But for some people, it's just one of the two. So for some people, it's all three. So you have to do a food elimination diet. Did you know, Mel, that food sensitivity testing is not validated? And all those tests that people get for food sensitivity, it's in 2023, we don't have a validated food sensitivity test. We can tell food allergies, like if you're going to have anaphylaxis to peanut, we have a test for that. But there's no test that's better than a food elimination diet for checking for your food sensitivities, the foods that are causing you to bloat.
Let me see if I'm following you. Because I was about to ask you, how would you know
Yeah.
if you're lactose intolerant? How would you know if you are sensitive to gluten? Because you asked me, Mel, are you lactose intolerant? I'm like, I have no idea. I have
Yeah.
whole milk in my coffee every morning. I eat cottage cheese. I love that SKYR yogurt.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm ingesting this stuff. I don't burp afterwards. I don't fart afterwards that I know of. But so am I bloated by it? I don't know. So are you saying that the only way to determine whether or not you are getting bloated or triggered by certain foods is to eliminate them from your diet and then to
Yep.
see what happens when you add them back in?
Yes, the gold standard for food related gut discomfort is to eliminate the foods and to add it back. When you add it back, that's really the test. I don't know if you've ever, gone a long time without eating, say, certain food, and then you add it back to your diet, and then you get like this huge bloating reaction. That's the sensitive food that you are eating. So you're only going to know if you're lactose intolerant or if you're not tolerant to dairy if you stop eating it and then you add it back and see what happens to you. That's like the gold standard for checking which foods that trigger you. So there's certain foods that trigger everyone, but there's certain food groups that trigger only few people. Like the insoluble fiber is like a thing that bloats everyone.
What is insoluble fiber?
So those vegetables that I was talking to you about, the raw vegetables.
Yes.
So they're made up of insoluble fiber. They have there's soluble fiber. So for example, things like baby spinach that's cooked really well, right? That has a lot of like soft fiber is how I would think about it. And it's easier to digest for the body. Whereas a raw broccoli or a cauliflower has a lot of insoluble fiber, and it's really hard for the body to digest, and it takes a lot of work. It's like marathon training. Like eventually you'll get there, but you don't want to start with huge amounts in the beginning. So, and then, alcohol. Let's talk about.
Oh, do we have to? Come on, this is coming out during the holidays, Dr. Shaw.
Yeah, but I mean,
no, seriously. No, let's talk about alcohol, because the truth is, I have this love-hate relationship with alcohol where I tend to go for periods where I don't drink at all, and I feel 1,000 times better, and I sleep better, and I know it's better for my health. And then particularly around the holidays or in the summer or, when we're celebrating something, I'll have a drink, and the next thing you know, I'm kind of sliding into drinking a little bit more frequently. And I definitely notice I don't sleep as well. I definitely notice that I'm tired in the morning. I have not really noticed bloating, but maybe I'm not understanding the signs or the symptoms to look for.
Well, let me tell you the problem with alcohol. The problem with alcohol is that, number one, a lot of us are ingesting it later in the evening. And so I told you that our body, just like our brain needs sleep, our gut bacteria need sleep as well. They need rest. If we're eating big meals and lots of drinks late into the night, you're already shortchanging your growth hormone, your cleaning, all the things that happen during the night in your gut. And so you're just more likely to be bloated in general. It doesn't mean that every single person is going to wake up the next day bloated. It's just contributing to this overall circadian rhythm misalignment that we have in our world. People are going days without seeing natural light, and then they're eating really late at night with bright lights, right? Like we're in this world where our circadian rhythms are getting thrown off all the time. And one of the biggest causes of bloating is that we're eating late at night and we're drinking alcohol late at night. So not only does alcohol cause bloating, it also is usually consumed later in the evening, closer to bedtime for a lot of us. Now, there are people who have it earlier in the day. And I would say if you are going to have alcohol around the holidays and you are trying to, manage your bloating and just in general, better health, start earlier in the day. And that way your body has time to kind of metabolize it. It's not going to disturb your sleep as much, and it's not going to disturb your gut health as much.
So what would be your recommendation for how much time you need between your last meal and your last drink with calories or sparkle in it, right? Whether it's alcoholic or not. And when you fall asleep, like, do you need like 3 hours, 2 hours, 5 hours? Like, what is going to help your gut process what you ate and drank, and then also get the rest that it needs, which helps your gut bacteria not be so mad at you.
Yeah, exactly. Our gut bacteria are our biggest allies, right? We want them to be our friends, and we don't want to starve them to death and kill them in all these ways that we're doing. Fasting, at least circadian style, so something natural, like taking a break from food for 12 hours, which sounds like it's nothing, but most Americans are eating 16 hours a day and just taking a quick break for 8 hours or less. So we want to extend the time that your gut gets rest. So it might be 2 to 3 hours before bed, you stop eating and you're only drinking water or decaffeinated tea, that kind of thing, clear liquids. And then go 12, 13, 14. So maybe 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. That would be ideal timings according to circadian rhythms.
You just said that the average person is eating for 16 hours a day. And I stopped for a second and thought, oh my God, you're right. Because you start eating the second you wake up and you eat until you go to bed. And I've never heard anybody talk about the fact that we're eating for that long of a period of time. And I've noticed that whenever we talk about intermittent fasting or fasting for a 12-hour window as a health and digestion and a gut bacteria tool, people go crazy, right?
Yeah.
About, oh, yeah. But when you focus on the fact that it's not healthy to eat for 16 hours a day either, I mean, that was sort of a aha moment for me.
Me too. When I read the circadian rhythm data that says basically the Nobel Prize in medicine a few years ago went to the scientists that were looking into how circadian rhythms actually run our bodies, that 80% of our body's functions work on circadian rhythms. This means that our gut needs rest, our gut bacteria needs rest. Like when it's dark outside, that is a time that our body switches into a different mode. And when I understood that, I was like, wow, why is it that we're eating so late into the night and then we're not giving our gut a break? We know we need sleep. So why don't we ever talk about giving your gut a rest, which is just as important as giving your brain a rest? And that could improve so many things in our body that, and I know, like you have an early dinner, you have a great night's sleep because now you have your growth hormone that is pumping, it's repairing everything. You wake up and you feel like a different person, like $1,000,000, right? And we know that, but we still don't do it. In America, at least, we don't do it. And so I think the circadian rhythm science is just going to get stronger and stronger because people just still are starting to understand what an impact that's going to have. Taking a break, just a break. It's not intermittent fasting per se. It's just being, it's how our bodies were designed. I mean, thousands of years ago, you didn't have Uber Eats to call at like midnight.
I'm just laughing because I'm sitting here going, it's not like we call sleep intermittent wakefulness.
Yeah.
It's like, it makes a lot of sense that your medical recommendation based on your expertise is that your gut needs 12 hours of not having to digest food in order to have your gut bacteria remain healthy and have your gut in balance. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. And we know that how much poor sleep we talk about all the time, right? Poor sleep makes you depressed. Poor sleep makes you eat more. Poor sleep it's the same thing when you get poor gut rest and you're eating all the time. The studies are very clear. Now, why intermittent fasting got such a bad rap is because the colloquial science, I don't want to say bro science, but the science, like the fitness world said, oh, if you want to do intermittent fasting, the way to do it is, eat late into the night and then don't eat all day. Don't eat till 12 or 1 or 2. And that's not been shown in the science to be helpful in weight loss. It's not been shown to be the way to do it in optimal health because our bodies don't work on that cycle. We are supposed to be eating during the wakeful hours. Now, that can be delayed. We don't need to eat first thing in the morning, but eating an early dinner and having the fasting start in the evening is something that I don't see a lot of fitness and, health influencers talk about, which is the way it's supposed to be done. We're supposed to give our body a time to digest. So we get better sleep, better growth hormone production, more rest to our gut so that we can wake up less bloated and we can be happier and healthier. I have this morning routine, the 3 Fs, okay? Every morning I wake up and I'm like, okay, fasting is number one. Have I fasted for 12 hours? If I haven't, I'm not going to have my first meal yet, okay? Because I might have stopped on some days later, 7:38.
Right.
And I might say I wake up at 6 and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to eat yet. I'm actually going to go exercise. So fitness is the second F. So fasting, fitness. And then when I'm ready to eat, it's fermented and fiber food. So those 3 Fs, fasting, fitness, and the food, those make up my morning routine so that I'm not as bloated. I fix my circadian rhythm so our gut bacteria are happy with us. And we start our day with something that is nourishing for that gut microbiome so that over days and weeks time, we can experience less bloating. We can have better body composition. Who doesn't want that? And better hormone health.
I am so freaking bloated right now. I'm uncomfortable.